Hey everyone, welcome back to Berlin Noir. Today we are going to be working on Mehringplatz and the Hallisches Tor, as well as the U-Bahn line, the elevated U-Bahn line I should say, that runs along the Landwehr Canal here. But so here is an aerial view of the area here, as you see the little circular part being the Mehringplatz, as well as the elevated U-Bahn line that runs along the canal there. So the photo there is a tad underexposed. It's pretty dark compared to the rest of the aerial view of the city that I have from the Tagesspiegel website. But I really actually enjoy how this turns out. I think it turned out really nice, better than I expected. I mean, going into this, I figured, I'm just building a little pretty, a big roundabout, fitting some buildings around there, as well as, plopping down a train station along the canal there. So I didn't think it would be, I didn't think it would be too much work, and B, I just didn't think it'd be anything like super special. But I was wrong on both accounts. So I guess, yeah, so this turned out to be kind of a lot more work than I expected, which, I mean, it wasn't hard or it didn't take me a lot of time. It was just very tedious. A lot of small things. I mean, especially working around this little roundabout area here. I mean, doing the center plaza part with the park, I mean, this was easy enough. I was just, looking at the aerial view I had of the area back then, and just copying that pretty much, just identical as it was back then. But what caught me off guard was the actual, placing buildings around this little circular area, which we'll get to that, in a little later. But it took a decent amount of time just trying to find the right buildings that didn't look kind of, off, placed side by side, trying to make a, at an angle so it fits around the circle. So, I mean, like I said, that's later, so I might as well talk about that when we get there. But, so for now, we are just working on the center Mehringplatz area. So, in the center of this little park here is the peace column, which I placed this little fountain here, which I know it's not a fountain in real life, but this fountain itself has a column that goes up to, I'm not sure if it's a little angel on top of the peace column in real life. Kind of looks to be that way. Or, I mean, maybe not an angel, but, some obviously something significant to Berlin or the country. Whenever it was built. But yeah, this fountain looked similar enough, minus the fountain part obviously, but yeah, I think it looks fine as a fountain there. But I also just was gonna fence off this little center area here. Yeah, like I said, I copy this exactly. I went off a couple other images as well, aside from just the aerial view that I showed you earlier, because, if you go back to that, at the very beginning of the episode where I had the aerial view, like I said, it was definitely underexposed, the photo, so it was pretty dark, and you can't really make out anything there. I mean, even the buildings just, you can't really see anything. But there's just, white, which is the roads, and then just kind of dark black and really dark gray being trees, buildings, and, who knows what else. But, yeah, so I had to go off of actual photos, which, obviously photos being, on the ground or, nearby buildings, it's much closer, much better quality. But, yeah, thanks to the photos, I was able to get it, some pretty nice details down that, I would have missed otherwise, like with that little U-Bahn station, or U-Bahn, or it's not, I guess, station, but the stairs that go underground there in the top right corner there, that I placed. Non-functional still. I think I need to get the, what mod is that? I'm totally blanking on what it's called, but the mod that basically lets you convert subway stations or train stations to, or a subway station to a train station or vice versa. So that way I can convert that to actual train tracks and have, my U-Bahn lines go above ground at some point, like I do later in this episode. But yeah, I've talked about it before. But if you're new, I don't want to have any actual functional subway or metro, whatever you want to call it, in this city, just due to the fact that all the metro tracks on the workshop and of course vanilla are very modern, and I just don't want, obviously being in 1929, it just doesn't look right. And also it's just simple having one type of track, because you can't combine the metro track with the train track. That doesn't work, unfortunately. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but yeah, that'd make for much more simpler things. But also, I guess, yeah, so, I've been getting a decent amount of subs lately, so I'm sure there are a decent amount of you who are new to the channel. And so at this moment, we are just over 950 subscribers. So 1,000 is just right around the corner. So I want to, of course, thank every single one of you watching this and who have subscribed and been following me. Who knows? Some of you have been subscribed since, I was building Las Colinas earlier in this year, I believe. I think. I don't know. But yeah, my goal was, when I started this channel, just to get to 1,000 subs within a year. I figured that was, reasonable enough. Posting pretty regularly, I figured that's something I'd be able to do, and it was a reasonable goal. And it seems as though that is going to be the case. So, yeah, we're, like I said, just a few subscribers away. So it'd be a massive favor to me if you all just, drop a like on this video and, leave a comment on regarding anything, something you want to see built, something in this episode. How your cat or dog is doing, I don't care. Let's just drop a comment and see if we can, get some more traffic to this video, and hopefully we can get to 1,000 subs before the next episode. That would be awesome. So yeah, just go ahead and like the video and see if we get to 1,000 by next time. But so anyways, moving on from that, I started now placing the buildings around this Plaza Center here. It started out very easily, placing, a second ago, those buildings that are the same theme, same style. They blend together very well, so it looked seamless, the transition from one building to the next. But like with that 90-degree corner building there, having to combine them, like it doesn't look terrible. And from a distance, you really don't notice, any sort of, funny things in it. But, it's not ideal, but there's really no alternative unless I just PO the crap out of it, which, I mean, I like PO and all, but it's very time consuming if, you're going to do stuff like that. But, yeah, so as you can see, I am starting to try and angle the buildings so they go around the Plaza here. One thing that I don't know why this happened, but like see there, I have that little modern neon sign there. I have the hide it mod, but for whatever reason, I actually I haven't looked at other buildings I have placed prior to this episode, so that's probably what I should do. But all the new buildings I was placing had logos, and they had satellite dishes and stuff like that on the roof, which I eventually just convert them all to PO. So I mean, I try to cover up that sign there with a old looking sign from some Paris pack, which looks fine. And initially I was just going to overlook the satellite dishes and the antennas on the roof, but I'm like, yeah, no, there's too many of them. Because like one here and there, I miss them myself, so I'm sure most of you do as well, unless you're really paying attention. But also, I mean, when I'm building, I'm not really paying attention to the tiny little props on the roof. I'm paying attention to like the, you know, the bigger scale, how it's all coming together as a whole, which is, you know, probably a little more important than just what the roof looks like. But as you see there, I converted that individual building to PO. Also, not to just get rid of the props on the roof, but also just to move the back so it, you know, there's no space in between the buildings, which was, you know, an issue. So what I found was, you know, this applies to a lot of things, but if you're building any sort of, you know, any sort of angled on an angled road, on a curvy, bendy road, really what you need to do is work with buildings that are either 1 or 2 tiles long. So what I'm doing here, as you see, is 2 tiles because those are bigger than the 1 tile buildings that I have. Because when you have ones that are 3 or 4 wide, you can't really make tight turn, and you can't really make it bend around, you know, such a shallow little turn like this. But you know, and also, like, if you're building on elevation, you also want to have, you know, either 1 or 2 tile, you know, buildings, because then the doors, like if you place a bunch of, you know, 4x4 buildings down on an elevated slope, then, you know, the windows and doors are going to be either really low or really high above the, you know, the ground level. Whereas if you just have individual little 1x4 buildings or whatever they may be, they, you know, the door is right there on the road, and there's not too much on either side since it's a small profile, it's a small building. So, you know, same concept with here, building around any sort of bendy curve, since unfortunately there's really nothing in this game to make that easy. There's no workshop assets, at least old-fashioned ones. There's a number of modern workshop assets that are meant for building like around roundabouts and stuff like that, which are very cool, but definitely could not use those in a series like this. But yeah, so that did take a while. I cut out some of it because I initially was just troubleshooting what buildings I should use around that plaza area there, so that did take a little while. Also, I was getting really annoyed and pissed off at the Hide It mod not cooperating with me, but I moved on. As you can see, finished that up. If you see a couple buildings with antennas and satellite dishes still on them, I either went back and PO'd those buildings to get rid of that, or, you know, you can point them out if you see them in the cinematics or anything, and I can go back and remove them next time I'm in game. But one thing I did forget to mention is those 2 buildings at the entrance of the plaza there. So those 2 buildings, I wanted to find something that looked pretty, you know, grand, something large, to mimic what was actually there in real life back then. And those are the closest I could find. Doesn't quite do that area justice, but I think it turns out good in the end once I decorate or detail everything, and I think it looks pretty cool. But anyways, we finally get to working on the U-Bahn station here, the elevated U-Bahn station along the canal. So this whole like canal U-Bahn line is something that I haven't really wanted to touch, just due to the fact that, I mean, it's on a very narrow canal, which the water physics in this game are ridiculous. They're crap. Sorry, City Skylines, but they're really bad. Let's be honest. And you know, placing any sort of station along water is going to obviously, you know, whatever the footprint of the station is going to go into the water, and you can put, you know, terrain terraformers and stuff down to try and, you know, make the terrain behave and all, but it's still a big hassle however you go about it. So what I ended up doing was simply just converting this New York style subway station into PO, so there's no, you know, it's effectively a prop. And what I was also able to do is get I don't know the content creator who created it, but it's just an elevated train track station. So it allows you to put a stop at an elevated, you know, height, and the trains will actually stop there. So as of now, though, it's not functional. So yes, the trains do in fact, stop at the station. They do stop, but there's no people using it. I placed some invisible paths later on in the episode to try and get people going up there, but I could not find any way to get people to actually use the station, which honestly is not that big of a deal, because we're not really concerned. I'm not concerned with the functionality of the city. I just want it to look good, and a train actually going over the tracks and stopping at the station looks good. So yeah, there's no people pouring out of the trains, but that doesn't really matter anyways, because you can't even see inside the station since I closed off the roof using procedural objects to make it more accurate to the station that existed back then, or exists now as well. Which, although one thing I also should mention is I put this station on the opposite side of the bridge. I did that because this area here was straight. There was a decent length, decent length of just straight tracks, whereas on the opposite side of the bridge, where the station actually exists in real life, it's a little more curvy, bendy. So, there's no bendy train station that I have that I could do there, and I considered doing an entirely 100% custom train station, which this to some extent was a custom train station, but obviously I used an actual asset to convert to PO. But what I considered doing was actually just using props and prop platforms and prop walls and windows and making a train station myself. But I figured that was going to be a huge pain, and there's a number of train stations along this canal here, which there was no way that I was going to actually make 100% custom train stations for all those stations. So, maybe in the future when we work along, there's one other station closer to the Anhalter Bahnhof. So maybe that one I'll do custom, since I think that is on a curvy section of the track, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that one, let's plan on that one being more custom, though, we'll see when I get there. Who knows? I may be a bit lazy and decide not to do it in 100% custom, but either way, I'm sure it'll turn out all right. But anyways, so there wasn't too much to do on the station itself, besides just, use PO to make it look a little different, and also add the walkways so they are, they aren't going over the road like they were in the asset originally. But what was really necessary for this area, and what really honestly makes this area look so good, is the fact that I pretty heavily detailed this front area. So I placed the buildings down and gave about a tile and a half worth of space between the road and the building, which I normally don't do, because it's much easier just to, use the grid and plop down the buildings without having to use movement and move them around. But there's one other area in the city in which I've done something similar to this, and it really looks nice. So I figured I was definitely going to have to do the same thing here, which also, because based on the aerial view that I had, it appeared as though there was a decent sized sidewalk. Again, that image is very dark, so it's hard to make stuff out, but it looks as though it's a little big. Maybe not quite as big as when I made it, but I think it looks better this way. I also did off-camera place or move back the buildings here along the plaza to allow for more space in front, so I could plop down these trees, because originally I had the buildings pretty close to the sidewalk, which really wouldn't have allowed much space for the trees. And honestly, I probably should have made more space, but this was kind of after the fact, so I didn't really have. I guess it could have. Would have been more work, but I didn't really want to just spend more time to move them back and, have to deal with the space in between the back of the buildings. So I just moved them back a tad and plopped down these trees, trying to make some variety amongst the trees, because, based on the images I was looking at, it looked as though, there's a decent amount of variety. Even a couple of these little planters, I just plopped down these little flower bushes instead of trees, because that's actually how it appeared to be in the photos. So you know, add some variety, of course, because it always never quite looks right when you just lay down, like with a prop line tool or something, a ton of trees of the same kind and shape, which I'm guilty of doing myself, but I try my best to, you know, avoid doing that too much. But anyways, we're getting pretty close to the end of the episode. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. The cinematics look pretty cool. Like I said, I really like how this area turned out with the station there along the canal and the bridge and the plaza in the center. It all looks really nice together, and it turned out much better than I expected. But like I said, go ahead and drop a comment and hit the like button if you don't mind, because hopefully we can get to 1,000 subs by the next video, and as a result I will start a Patreon account. A number of you have said that, and I will do that once I hit 1,000. So I will see you all next time, and hopefully we'll be at 1,000 subs.